If you're going through a divorce and you've been told you're too sensitive, what if I were to tell you that your sensitivity is your greatest asset? As I was navigating a hellacious divorce journey, I discovered 3 transformative shifts. These shifts allowed me to grow. They allowed me to become and step into this woman that I knew I could be, but that my marriage wouldn't allow me to be. That is what I want to share with you today. I'm really excited. I am a holistic relationship coach. My background is in psychotherapy, and I specialize in working with sensitive women, deeply feeling, intuitive, empathic women going through divorce or separation, whether at the beginning, they're in the middle, or at the end. So let's jump into this material. Today we're talking about 3 shifts that will transform your divorce experience. I'm so excited to share with you. Let's start with the preview. So we are going to be covering a shift that is going to let you finally understand and make sense of why things feel so bad. And of course you have a feeling, you have an idea, but this is going to give you so much more clarity on why the divorce is happening. The first tip is to root yourself into who you are. It's going to help you understand how things got the way they did in your marriage, and perhaps why your life feels so different than you ever imagined, or why you feel so wildly disconnected. It's going to have you root into who you really are and start to see life in a new way. It sounds big, but it is one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. The next tip is where you get a clear understanding of how did you get here? Why has this been so hard? Why do you feel so disconnected from yourself? What are those giant obstacles that get in the way? And then the final tip is going to be where you are like, okay, now I know. And now I'm going to move forward in a way that perhaps I've never done before. With confidence, with calm. You're going to step forward into a life that you design and a life that you love. That's what the final tip is going to help you with. So let's get started. I'm really excited. Let's do this. So tip number 1, understanding your core values. This is actually going to have you do a deep dive into what your values feel like to you, how they show up for you in your life, how they don't show up for you in your life. By understanding the intricacies of values, I began to understand my marriage in a totally different way and why the marriage was dissolving. Let me give you a story to highlight this. So toward the end of my marriage, when I was feeling so disconnected and truly unhappy, I started to take a course through Brené Brown. This was my introduction to her, and I credit her for part of my revolution and my evolution. Brené Brown had, in this course, we were to come up with our top 2 values. And it was a process. You really had to step into, okay, without this, would I be myself? Without this, could I do these other things that are important to me? This will all make sense a little bit later. So I'm doing Brené Brown's course, and I am becoming so aware of my values. We identify our top 2. And then from there, we start to get so mindful of when we are in alignment with our values. So during my marriage, I was like, okay, what feels good to me? What feels like me? When I'm doing X, Y, or Z, do I feel connected to me or do I feel disconnected? I started taking a mental note of, okay, this feels gross. This isn't in alignment with my values. I would pay attention to how my stomach felt, or my jaw, or even my shoulders. Was I clenched up? Was I like tightened in the stomach? All these different physical sensations, I started to connect them to when I was out of alignment with my values and actually when I was in. You can think tension is I'm out of alignment. Relaxation is I'm me. And when I'm me, I'm in my values. If you think about values as your fingerprints, they are so uniquely yours. So again, I'm getting so intimately aware with my values, and I've identified them, and I'm starting to realize that when I'm with my husband, so many of our interactions just don't feel in alignment with who I am, what I stand for. And then I took a deeper dive and realized, okay, so there's no way that my values and his values are ever going to align. That's a huge piece. They were never going to align. They were at odds with each other. And I don't believe that when you enter a partnership, your values have to be the same. They can be different, but they need to commingle in a beautiful way, right? Or there needs to be some really solid conversations of, hey, we differ here. How do we want to move forward? In my marriage, those type of conversations just were not at all possible. I gave myself permission to move on because there is going to be either me living out of alignment with my values, which feels awful, or me leaving. And so what I'm trying to get you to see here is that by aligning with your values, by becoming so intimately familiar with them, and you actually want to have your top two, you will start to see things in a different way. You will understand why some things feel good and some things simply don't. And you will gain clarity on the path forward. And often with the population that I work with, the path forward is in leaving a significant relationship. And when you know you're leaving it based on your values, it's a whole different experience. Okay, that was our shift number 1, getting super familiar with your core values. Now, let's go and start talking about what makes us so disconnected from these values.